I'm Greg Wheatley, and my guest today on Inside Wheaton is Dr. Rob Ribbe. Rob is Assistant Professor of Christian Formation and Ministry at Wheaton College and also serves as the Director of HoneyRock. Now, my guess is that if you know anything at all about Wheaton, you probably know the name HoneyRock, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But Rob, it's great to have you here.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Nice to meet you for the first time, and looking forward to getting to know a little bit about your work. Let's start with HoneyRock. I think people have a connection to Wheaton. They probably recognize that HoneyRock is that place way up to the north where it gets really, really cold, right?
Yep, exactly.
Tell me about HoneyRock and its relation to Wheaton College.
Sure. HoneyRock was started in 1951 by Harv Krauser, who is coach, athletic director, chair of the PE department, and the mission and passion since the very beginning has been to provide a leadership laboratory for Wheaton students, a place where they can learn leadership and grow in character and spiritual formation by actually applying their learning from the classroom in a real-life ministry setting. And he saw camp as a fantastic way to provide students with hands-on learning and hands-on ministry and hands-on leadership. So we run camp programs year-round, and they are all part of the laboratory for our students who are taking courses in leadership and ministry and applying that learning to a real-life situation.
There's something about the camp experience. I mean, youth leaders have recognized that for a long, long time. Church youth leaders, there's something about going to camp that sort of facilitates development, isn't there?
Yeah, there absolutely is. And that's one of the neat things about HoneyRock being associated with Wheaton is that we actually have the opportunity as a college that also does camp ministry to dig into the principles and the dynamics of camp ministry and understand them from a theological as well as social science perspective and train those into our students and grad students.
And just how cold does it get up there?
We've had 3 days of school canceled in the last 2 weeks because it was below -20.
Okay. And that's regular air temperature?
Regular air temperature,
wow, okay.
Plus another 20 with wind chill.
Don't look for me too soon. But, yeah. But it could be worse. You could be in New England right now.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons we're looking forward to having you here, Rob, is to talk about this exciting program that goes on now at HoneyRock, and it has to do with students who are getting ready to graduate high school, but they're just not sure that they want to step directly into college. The word people are using now is taking a gap year, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. But let's start there and make sure everybody knows what that means. What do we mean by a gap year?
Gap year programs have actually been around for a while, and in Western Europe, Australia, they're much more of the norm than just going from high school into college. So they're very prevalent there. And they're really starting to take off in the United States for several reasons. But basically, it's a chance for students who are either have been in, a high-level high school with a lot of rigor and they're just tired and they need a break.
Kind of burned out.
Yeah. Students who aren't quite sure what they want to study or what they want to go into, so they're taking a year with a heavy experiential base to it to try and explore some options and maybe discover a little bit more about who they are, so that they can go into college with purpose. So those are kind of the two main reasons that gap years are starting to take off. And it's also a financial savings for parents, too, in the sense that a student's not doing all that exploration on the expense of a regular college year.
That was my question, because it seems to me with the exponential rise in costs of college that's more important than maybe it used to be. You just don't want that student figuring it all out at the rate of $45,000, $50,000 a year, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell me about Wheaton's approach to this. And to me, it seems like it's a pretty creative way to sort of maximize the gap year. What are you doing?
Well, starting in September this year, 2015, we'll be starting a 11-month gap year program. And what's really neat is because of our connection with Wheaton, it'll be a liberal arts-based program. So we'll be doing some academic preparation with students engaged with Wheaton faculty, coming up teaching seminars on different topics that relate to who they are, calling, mission, purpose in life. They'll also be living in Christian community. HoneyRock is a really neat place for people to live and to work together and to serve together. We have the beautiful outdoor environment that they'll be able to be engaged in. We're also going to integrate cross-cultural component. Students will be engaged in the rural community of Wisconsin, which is quite different from the suburbs and the urban areas. We're planning a inner-city trip and also a cross-cultural overseas trip as part of the program so that they can get a sense of God's bigger world and explore what place they might have in it. So those are some of the components I think that are unique.
And circling back for just a minute to our introduction, the students who come to Wheaton traditionally still have a chance. It's called Passage, right?
Yep.
That's sort of a mini gap year.
Exactly.
It's more like a gap, month or how
It's
long?
2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. So what is Passage? Because a lot of students who come through here come through that.
Yeah, Wheaton Passage is a program that started in 1969, and Wheaton is actually was at the forefront of what's called the adventure-based orientation programs. Those are optional pre-semester experiences that either wilderness trips located at camps, sometimes in cross-cultural situations, that kind of prepare the student to enter college with social connection, relationship development, spiritual formation, and getting them ready that way, giving them a kind of a vision for what college is all about. And so Wheaton Passage has been around for a long time, and currently about 50% of incoming students to Wheaton participate every year. So you're really right to make the connection. Basically, our GAP program is Passage for an extended period of time.
Right?
Yeah. And we'll be able to go a lot deeper and have a lot more input and development for the students that participate.
Talk a little bit about, I know that there are 3 components to your GAP program. And Vanguard, is that what you're calling it?
They were calling it Vanguard.
Yeah. The spirit, the mind, and the body. I mean, those are not surprising. What I found interesting was that part of your spiritual component involves working around the church year, the church liturgical calendar, which is pretty fascinating. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, we were looking for a way to bring spiritual formation, that whole aspect of our relationship with Christ. Oftentimes in evangelical Christianity, it's more of an individualistic process.
It's all about me and the Lord, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to make that a community-based thing. And the neat thing about the church calendar is basically you're reliving the story of the gospel and walking with Christ over the course of the year. And so each season of the church calendar, be it Advent, Epiphany, Lent, Easter, Pentecost, they each have kind of a different theme and focus of formation and the story of the gospel and living that out and living into it and kind of reliving and re-engaging the story. So we thought, man, what a great way to kind of shape the year. And as we've laid the year out in relation to the church calendar, it just flows so well with the developmental process that we're trying to create. So we're really excited to live into the calendar and the themes of each season and let that be the guide for the development that's happening in the community.
So, Rob, take me through a typical, if I'm a high school senior and I, along with my parents, have decided that it's a gap year for me and I'm interested in this Vanguard program, what would that look like for me?
Well, there's several things going on. First of all, the church calendar, which we've already talked about. But each week, well, initially the program's going to start with kind of a group development phase for several weeks where we really get to know each other. That'll involve a wilderness trip at some level and really engaging in creation and being outdoors. And then we will kind of step into a flow where 3 days a week, the students will be engaged in work and service around camp, which that's intended to give them exposure to all kinds of different life skills. So they might work in the auto shop and learn how to change the oil and change tires while they're helping HoneyRock, work in the kitchen, housekeeping, site and facilities, building buildings, helping with maintenance. So the whole goal there is that while they're working, they're learning life skills that will hopefully help them discern where they need to go and want to go in life, but also how they can contribute, plus their skills that are going to build into their life down the line. And then another 3 days a week, they'll be engaged in what we're calling seminars, which faculty from Wheaton will come up and we'll engage different topics related to the church calendar and the church season. And then about every quarter, the students will be taking a 1 to 2 week trip, and this is where engaging rural Wisconsin, the inner city, and overseas, that kind of will break it up into quarters, and we'll build towards the trip and then build towards the next trip in a progressive way. The last phase of the program is being engaged in the summer ministry of HoneyRock and finding a place in all the roles of running camp and plugging in and contributing as kind of the culmination of their year of preparation and formation.
And you said this is an 11-month program. So I'm assuming they start in the summertime?
They start mid-September, and we'll finish the first week of August. That way, if they're going to go off to college, depending on where they're going, they have several weeks to get ready and make that transition.
So this is not, and that's a good lead into my next question. If I go to Vanguard, I'm not necessarily committed to Wheaton College.
No, you're not. It's about preparation for college and for life, and Wheaton, we trust, will be an option for a lot of the students, but we're also willing to say Wheaton's not for everybody, and we're going to help them as part of the program discern what college is best and where they might go. But again, it's not specifically for Wheaton.
Is there academic credit involved in
We're in the process of working on that and trust that there will be some hours of credit available.
So what's the process like in terms of, number one, let's talk about how to make that decision. How would you counsel if I had a student sitting across from you here, how would you say, is this right for you? And then if it does seem right, what's the process of applying for this?
Yeah. Well, back to the beginning when we talked about, are you burned out? Do you need a break? Do you have clarity on where you want to go and what you want to study and what's next for you? One thing that the research shows for GAP programs is that students who take the gap year are 90% go to college. They come in with much more focus and purpose about what they're studying. So if that's kind of where you're at and what you're hoping for, and it seems wise to take the time, we really encourage it. As far as the process for application, we're accepting applications now. They fill out an online application with a few essay questions, get some references, then we'll have an interview. The only thing we need is a transcript from your high school so that you're a high school grad or will be this spring. And then if everything looks good and it kind of lines up, then we'll let them know.
How do schools, colleges, look at this experience? In other words, if they see on my resume that I've gone to, is that going
to... Actually, a lot of the top tier schools like Harvard and Yale and Brown, Dartmouth, are recommending students take a gap year. They are really seeing the value of what happens in a student's life when they take that time to think through why and what. So those schools, if you go to their admissions website, you're going to see, consider taking a gap year, strongly encouraged. So I think most colleges are beginning to see that it really helps because retention rate is higher for a kid that does that.
There, I would suspect you're sort of more all in.
You're all in.
Yep. Once you've done that. That's very interesting. Expensive? How does this relate to, say, a year of college?
Our program is $15,000 for the whole year, which if you look at it, just room and board alone, plus the trips and the development that's going to happen, that's what's there. If we get credit, that'll be part of the price. But the neat thing about our program is that because the students are working around HoneyRock, we're actually going to be crediting them for their time, which will reduce the bill. But we want the students to be responsible for some of the cost of participation. So doing that will provide for them about $3,000 of reduced off the $15,000. And then another thing we're providing is if a student before the program earns $1,000 of their own money and contributes that to the bill, we'll match it with a $1,000 scholarship.
Wow.
So really, bottom line, if a student does that, the program's $10,000 for a year of development and room and board.
So you're talking about a very small percentage of what it would cost to go to college for a year.
Absolutely.
And that includes room and board and the program, right? That's
Everything. The only thing is if we do an overseas trip, the students, as part of the learning and development, will raise funds for that through service projects and things like that.
Yeah. Talk a little bit, Rob, about, I know you have there's an event coming up soon here, and I want to give you a chance to talk about that. What's happening?
On February 10th, we're going to have a meeting for all people that are interested in GAP programs in general and wanting to just hear about them. And we'll be explaining the purpose and kind of goals of GAP programs, explaining the different types of GAP programs, and trying to serve parents in the community with information about the value of GAP programs. We'll also be talking about the Vanguard program and answering questions. So we've written local high schools, guidance counselors to try and encourage them to spread the word, but really encourage people, if you're at all in any way thinking about it, encourage you to come to the meeting, find out more.
That'll be on Wheaton campus?
On Wheaton College campus, yes.
And probably information at the website.
Absolutely, on the HoneyRock website and the main Wheaton College website.
Yeah. It's an exciting program.
Thank you.
You have to be feeling good and excited about all of that, right?
Oh, we are very, very excited about the opportunity to serve a neat group of kids at an important transition in their life in this kind of way.
Rob, good to have you here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rob Ribbe, Assistant Professor of Christian Formation and Ministry at Wheaton, and directs HoneyRock. And again, this program is called Vanguard. And if it sounds like it might be right for you or for your student, please do get in touch. Visit wheaton.edu and then do a search for HoneyRock or Vanguard, and you'll turn up all the information you need. For Inside Wheaton, I'm Greg Wheatley.